So surprisingly, Aspyr Media have actually patched the Battlefront Classic Collection over the last day or two. I was actually going to get this video out as soon as they posted the patch notes, but I thought I would actually wait until I could play the game first to give my opinion on it as well. So we're going to go over all of those patch notes, and then at the end I'm going to give my thoughts on the first update for the Battlefront Classic Collection. Now, the reason that I'm a little bit surprised about this is that often with Aspyr Media, like I've said in previous videos, they do kind of just release their games and then generally just kind of move on. They don't really say much afterwards. Now, to be fair, most of the games they launch are single player games, so it is a little bit more acceptable when you're doing that with a single player game, as well as the fact that generally their games haven't been like super broken at launch. All of the previous Star Wars games they've re-released have actually been pretty solid. So I honestly wasn't sure if they would actually get around to updating the game. I didn't really see them as a studio that would be doing like live patches for a multiplayer game or anything like that, but they have finally given us an update, and they definitely needed to. This has been one of the worst launches that I can remember, at least in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. The single player side of the game is genuinely fine. There's nothing really that wrong with the single player side of it, but the multiplayer is absolutely cooked, and so there was definitely the need for a bit of an update. It's going to be interesting to see whether this can turn the game around or not, because the game does seem to be dead according to the Steam charts. There's like less than 3,000 people playing concurrently, and it's only been out for a week tomorrow, so that is not a good sign at all. Obviously it wasn't going to last for ages anyway. It's a 20-year-old game, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering whether these updates are going to actually bring people back or if it's just kind of done already. We are just going to have to wait and see. Now, getting into the actual patch notes, there is actually quite a lot to go through here, so I'm not going to go through every single fix. I'll just sort of talk about the key ones, and then I'll try and pop the rest on screen. You guys can read through if you want, because a lot of these are more to do with stuff that wasn't really the big talking points within the community. There were a few like key issues that they seem to have fixed in here, but a lot of this stuff is just kind of like smaller stuff as well. Now, they start off with some multiplayer fixes. They said that they fixed a crash related to client message sends. Not really too sure what that means, to be honest, but obviously that is just fixing some of the crashes. I will talk about that a little bit more in depth at the end of the video, because my experience has been nothing but crashes so far, unfortunately, but yeah, I'll save that for the end of the video. They also fixed the launch prompt to be present after timing out or selecting cancel while joining a server, and then they fixed password locked games to no longer appear via the quick match option. Now, those are the 3 single changes that they've made to the multiplayer. That is not a good look so far, because multiplayer is where the issues were at. There was, you know, not that much wrong with the actual single player side of it. I've had a blast actually going back and playing just like Galactic Conquest and Instant Action and stuff like that. I've heard a few issues to do with the campaigns, but they're more to do with like the cutscenes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing that there's only 3 fixes for multiplayer, and none of them seem to be that big, unfortunately, but hopefully that does fix, you know, a lot of those issues for most people who play the game. Now, they also fixed some stuff to do with the controls. A lot of this stuff is not that important. It's kind of just like crashes that would occur on PC when you were using keyboard and mouse, for example, in exact situations. So nothing crazy here. What I will say is that they did fix the inverted controls. I know a lot of people had complaints about that when it came to like the starfighter gameplay, because generally, you know, when you're playing starfighters or like planes in Battlefield, for example, controls are generally inverted, because if you like pull down on the stick in a real plane, that would cause you to go up, because obviously you're pulling the stick back, therefore pulling you up, and then if you push the stick forward, it would make you go down. So generally people tend to play on inverted controls, and they didn't even have that option in the game at launch. So they seem to have fixed that now, and that is definitely a big one here. But again, most of the other stuff in the control sort of section of this patch notes, there's nothing really that big here. They've then fixed a heap of like visual bugs, and I'm not going to read through any of these just because I've read through them and they don't seem to be that important. Obviously still good changes. I'm not like being critical there. This is stuff that they should be changing, so good on them for doing that. It's more just this didn't seem to be anything that was like game breaking already, so I'll pop that on screen. You guys can feel free to pause it and read through if you want, but this is all just visual stuff. It doesn't really affect the gameplay at all. Moving on, they've touched on some hero assault stuff. They said they've rebalanced Asajj Ventress's abilities. They also fixed Kit Fisto's lightsaber to animate, and then they fixed his force power to no longer remain stuck through the client in multiplayer. So some decent fixes there. They then move on to the audio, which is definitely one of the the biggest issues for me personally. Reading through these, they said that they fixed the Battlefront 1 loading screen sounds. Thank the fucking maker, because that was honestly one of the biggest turn-offs. As soon as I heard that, I was like, what the hell have they done to my baby? So I'm glad they have finally fixed that. They fixed a crash that occurred when an audio output device was disconnected. They fixed the music to play on several maps in the hero assault mode. They fixed blaster sound effects for certain hero characters' weapons to play at the correct volume. And then finally, and this is the most important for me, they fixed an issue where the audio outputs would reverse. So that final one, that was definitely happening to me. Everything that would happen in my left ear, for example, if someone was to my left in the game shooting, I would hear that in my right ear. If someone was in front of me, I would hear the audio behind me. So that one was very frustrating, and I'm glad they have finally fixed that. And then they did mention some other stuff, just kind of like random assorted bugs at the end there, but again, nothing seems to be that big there. So yeah, most of the previous stuff that I've mentioned is kind of the biggest stuff that they've addressed in this update. Now, getting into my opinion on the update, unfortunately I don't have too much of an opinion, because for me the game is still completely unplayable. In the background, I'm going to show my attempts to get into a game of Conquest in multiplayer on the Battlefront 2 version of the game. I had about 3 attempts in this recording that I did, and all 3 of them just resulted in crashes. That was just trying to use the server browser. So I'll just have that sped up and show you guys with no editing. This is literally my experience so far trying to play this update. I then sort of realized, okay, it's obviously to do with the server browser. So I went and tried the quick search. Initially that didn't work, and then it did put me into a game, and there was 7 people in the lobby at essentially prime time in Australia. So if there's ever going to be people online, keep in mind I'm also on PlayStation, so this should be the most populated platform. And I got into a game with 7 people and I had the red connection. So this is obviously some like American server or just some random ass server, and that was the best game they could give me. After that, I literally turned the game off and did not attempt to play again. So that is my experience so far with this update. It doesn't seem to have fixed anything. In fact, it has just broken things, because that was not happening to me before. When I would use the server browser, it would work perfectly well, and now I can't even search for games. So as good as a lot of these fixes are they've put in the patch notes, unfortunately for me, it is still unplayable. And like I said at the start, I'm kind of surprised they even updated the game once. I don't know if they'll do it twice, to be honest. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can get around to fixing it, and even more so, I hope that this is just like an issue to do with my own game and it's not something that everyone's experiencing. Hopefully the game is working for everyone else. So yeah, that is my experience with the game. Unfortunately, it is still unplayable for me. So unfortunately, there won't really be too much more content on the Battlefront Classic Collection. I will continue to do like news updates and stuff like that, but I'm probably just going to get back to covering Outlaws over the next week. And then if you guys didn't know, we do have a gaming channel. I'm currently covering Dragon's Dogma 2 over there. The game is actually launching tomorrow. So for any of you guys who are keen on Dragon's Dogma 2, be sure to go and check out the gaming channel. We're nearly at 2K, or we may even be at 2K by the time this video goes live. So be sure to go and check that channel out for some more content, while the Star Wars gaming scene is once again a little bit dead. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.